Welcome to a new session of the Bucharest Forum 2020. A panel session that is dedicated to lesson learned from the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact of technology, digitalization, and de-bureaucratization. This session is done with the help of Aspen Institute Germany, and we'll focus very much on the effects and the effects of the pandemics with a focus on technology. What was the role of technology? What is the process that we saw during this pandemics, and how digitalization and new technologies can foster the economic recovery after the pandemics will be over, hopefully soon. Also, we saw a lot of governments responding very well and pushing the agenda of digitalization very much in this period. So I'm happy to have quite a lineup today, and I welcome very much Mr. Mario Brandenburg, a member of the German Bundestag and spokesperson for the AI Enquete Commission. Dr. Tomika Tillemann, founder and director of Digital Impact and Governance Initiative of the New America Foundation. Mr. President, Mr. Sabin Sarmaș, President of the Authority for the Digitalization of Romania. Mrs. Violeta Luca, General Manager of Microsoft Romania. Muriel Luriu, I hope I pronounce it correctly, CEO of Vodafone Romania. And Răzvan Atim, General Manager Eastern Europe UiPath. So different views, different backgrounds, and I'm sure that would be a very good session today. What we would like to focus very much on is on three lines, and I'm putting for you in the debate today. How do you see the pandemic accelerated this process of digitalization? How the technologies, the new technologies like AI or APA can increase the resilience and future response in such a crisis? And how governments adapt to this transformation? These are the main topics that we would like to cover today. Before that, and I would like to, because we don't have so much time, we have only 1 hour and a lot of topics to debate. I would like to combine the presentation part of each one of you in the introducing yourself with also a question, a first round of questions. So just a note before, two things and an intro. Two things struck me this year, to be very honest. I learned two new terms: lockdown and accelerated digitalization. So somehow for me it was like a contradiction in terms, because on one hand you have the world stopped, and the other hand you have all the processes were accelerated and so on. So how this come together? Also. Articles on how the world stopped, on articles on it was a study, I believe McKinsey published earlier this month, on how the process was very accelerated in the companies and the business sector, to 3 to 4 years in generally speaking in adopting new technologies. So I will go to each one of you with one question and give you the chance to also introduce yourself. And I'll start with Mrs. Muriel Luriu. You faced at least 2 challenges this year, I believe. Keeping the infrastructure, which was critical for me, for sure, for everybody also for sure, but also to move your teams in a new work format, and which is not usual. So Did the world stop for you this year? Please.
Well, thank you for the question. Listen, first, thank you for inviting me for this Bucharest Forum with Aspen, and I'm very happy to be with all of you today. I think that, so I don't want to present myself further. I mean, I've been leading now Vodafone Romania for the last 3 years now, and I'm really happy to be in Romania, even into those very exceptional times we are all in. To answer to your question, I would say straightforward, definitely not. Yeah, I don't think that the world stopped for us. Rather, that it has accelerated in many ways and trends, and I will probably explain a bit why. But I think that first, I mean, for businesses, the COVID has been, probably one of the biggest disruptors in the last 100 years. And yet some businesses have been better prepared to deal with this issue that have arisen, and they were more probably digital ready, if I can say so. And then for the ones that were not at all digital, then yes, maybe the world has frozen for them while getting into the lockdown. And unfortunately, it is very difficult to become digitally ready overnight. Yeah, this is a journey to transform yourself, except if you're digital native. But otherwise, it's a journey to transform yourselves from systems to skills and capabilities and so on and so forth. So yes, maybe we had a complete different views and perceptions depending on the readiness each of us as companies or even as individual we were having before the pandemic. I think that actually at Vodafone we've done a major study involving 1,200 SMEs across Europe, and we conducted actually the survey from the beginning of the pandemic till last July. And the main learning is that those SMEs that were already started to be digitalized, they were more likely to have found new business opportunities during the pandemic, even during the last months. And the most digitalized businesses have secured opportunities at more than double the rate of the least digitalized one. So COVID will have a lasting impact, and it will accelerate companies' digital transformation. And the insight that many businesses shared with us indicated that COVID crisis didn't make them lose their direction, but it forced them to be more effective in running the business and taking all the right measures for a steady business. And I believe it is in some way the same for us as Vodafone. But now I realize actually that I need to come back to what you've asked and mentioned around keeping up our infrastructure. Yeah, I think you've mentioned that in the question, and it's a very important one. I need to start actually with this, obviously, that I think that one of the big learning that everybody realized as soon as we went into the lockdown in March was how critical the telecommunication networks have been. Yeah, actually, our industries has played, I think, a very, very critical role in keeping Romania connected. And it has suddenly become obvious that all our vital communication services are supporting literally everything we do, yeah, whether in business, at home, in public services. And of course, we got from 40 to 65% of traffic increase on our mobile as well as on our fixed networks from the first months during the state of emergency. Has the entire Romania was actually kind of shifting to do everything online and digitally. And it was a similar trend across Europe, by the way. And here, I think that it's been definitely a big challenge for us. We had to act very fast. And here, I think that really the speed to be able to increase capacity almost overnight to serve everybody best way possible has been really critical, and the guarantee that the entire society can rely on good quality, reliable network in the future will become even more important for countries moving forward. So, and then I think that there is also a risk that is emerging and increasing, which is the risk of isolating a part of the country or a part of the society in case they don't have access to good connectivity. And here, this risk will become, I think, more and more important and will raise legitimate needs and priorities for states to support further investment on broadband infrastructure and on new technologies. And by the way, the role of technology has improved, at least has a good trend as well that has evolved. The role of technology has definitely improved to the people or the customer perception. Yeah, we've done actually a survey where we've seen that 88% of people worldwide has increased their appreciation for technology and towards our industry in general versus where it was before the pandemic. So it has definitely raised this awareness of, how critical this is. And now I think that beyond even let's say, how critical the telecommunication infrastructure has been for all of us, I think also we have realized how much the network infrastructure has been for Romania an exceptional competitive asset compared to other countries in the world, in Europe even, where actually I think that it became essential tool for Romania economic and societal resilience against the crisis. I really think that this is also very important to have in mind. Now, maybe moving to the your other point referring to how we shifted and working from home. I think that first, I mean, you need to realize that during this pandemic, and only over the last, 6-9 months now, there have been lots of shifts in terms of behaviors, whether on the consumer side or business side. And I believe personally that most of those behavior shifts are here to stay. Even if they happen in a very short period, they will probably be long lasting in the future. And one of the major shifts is exactly what you said. I mean, we had all experienced that in our lives. We had to shift on the way we work, on the way we learn, by just basically mainly moving now everything from home and digitally. So, I mean, for Vodafone, I think that we have definitely had to manage overnight to work from home. We had now, I mean, since the beginning of the pandemic, more than 80% of our staff working from home. And our plan is to continue working from home till next year, at least 2021. Just for you to have in mind, for example, our entire call center is insourced. It's like more than 1,000 people. And again, overnight, we had to basically, because of the lockdown, moved all our call center treatment from home. And of course, this is creating, like major shifts from the company point of view, but also from an individual point of view on how you manage your team, your employees, how you start working together and so on. And I think that Vodafone was definitely probably more ready than others in terms of working from home, because we had remote working already kind of promoting that at least once per week before, because we had probably the digital tools already well enabled across the company. But I think that what we are realizing across the last months is that beyond the capability, it's more the human, let's say, relationship that is actually very important to keep in mind. There is, for me, a challenge more coming from how we maintain the culture and the engagement together, towards the company. How we make all of us feeling as a team. And let me be a bit extreme, but how we replace the corridor, kind of informal conversation we used to have in the office, yeah? Because this is what it is, yeah? I mean, having the video calls, being able to engage together, work together efficiently. By the way, our productivity didn't even decrease over the last period, yeah? But the engagement, the caring, the informal conversation, this is where we see a bit of a challenge now, and we are reflecting on how we can replace those, informal conversation, how we can have more caring, informal conversation together, and not only like meetings over meetings and over VCs. And I think this is going to be some reflections moving forward for all of us as companies. And then, I think that the other big question mark is going to be around how we take care about the fact that we need to be careful about diversity. Yeah, I think that for me, this is also another big challenge moving forward. I think that we are all experiencing the same storm of changes into this crisis, but we are definitely not all into the same boat to face this storm, if I can say so. And here, we've realized that actually single mothers, but also parents with young kids, had much more challenging time and situation to manage, to handle, to cope with than others. And here we need to be very careful on how we adjust, the way we manage the team all together when they are all having different situations at home. So that's in a nutshell, at least the
Thank
two
you.
feedback learnings I have on that point.
Thank you so much. Indeed, there was a change in a lot of things, and probably one of the best examples is the small grocery shop. I'm living in a small town outside Bucharest, so this shop only sells vegetables, and that's it. Uh, Started to receive and to delivery online, and they made the online shop overnight. So it was a huge change for somebody who doesn't feel doing that before. Yeah, I will move to Mrs. Violeta Luca, General Manager of Microsoft. I believe Microsoft is digital by default, I would say. So no problem in adapting to these times. But how did you feel? How are your lessons learned in the pandemic?
Thank you, Radu. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be together today with you and to discuss such important matters for all of us, and hopefully to contribute and inspire our participants today at our event. Indeed, to quote my boss, Satya Nadella, I think we had in 2 months digital transformation like in 2 years. And I believe we felt it differently depending on the environment, the industry, the modus operandi, the way we were engaging before the pandemics. But definitely it have transformed a lot, the culture and structurally how we are doing our business. For Microsoft, indeed, we are a digital company, and by default, before pandemic, we were having the option to work from home or from anywhere, to be precise. But actually, in Romania, our culture was more likely to come into the office and to use this, remote working more likely 1 or 2 days per month. It was not really a habit. So when we needed to work from home from one day to another, it was definitely a change. In the beginning, we did not realize so much the impact because our entire team here, the commercial organization and also the support and engineering organization, focused to support our stakeholders, our partners and customers to digitize. Because let's say remind ourselves how it was in the beginning of March, when it was a huge pressure to let's say to digitize and to enable remote work and business continuity, and it was a huge struggle for resilience. And we were among the first ones, and Microsoft is a digitally first responder company. We helped our stakeholders at large to be operational and to overcome the challenges they were having back then. So my team, I remember a couple of weeks, we were working around the clock to support thousands of teachers to learn how to use Teams, to support from SMBs to big enterprises which were not fully digital yet, to support public sector entities to go digital. So it was initially a huge work and a huge meaning and excitement on how we can contribute. And then definitely we realized after a couple of weeks that we are missing that cafeteria chat, and we are missing seeing each other. And we enabled more and more video conversations because initially not everyone was really comfortable with video conversation, and we are not a company to push this one forward. But we realized that we need this, and we created what I call moments that matter for our employees. I mean, like coffees in the morning. We even organized a DJ party for our customer support and engineering. We have more than 1,000 people there, young people willing to somehow find a way to socialize together. So it was a huge hype with many challenges, anxiety, but rewarding moments as well. When we saw in the market is that it was a couple of weeks for a particular type of companies. We saw a little bit of frozen approach. They were waiting to see if a vaccine will come out, if this will pass away, if there were a particular cluster of companies which were not really doing something. And fortunately, I would say for us in Romania, this situation didn't last so much. And I would say that our partners ecosystem and my team, we try to contribute to this one, because definitely we need to learn to deal with the new reality. So digital transformation has never been more urgent, honestly, for all of us in this world with unprecedented constraints. And we learned together with our partners and customers and internally as well how to empower employees in the new reality. And we utilize more and more what we call workplace analytics. It's a feature we have embedded in our suite Office 365. It's not individual level, it's at team level, but this is helping us to understand the collaboration metrics, the, let's say, the intensity of working hours, because after a couple of weeks we noticed that there is a risk of burnout in particular divisions of the company, and we needed to take care of this. Because I would say right now, considering family situations, different challenges, not all the people are having big apartments to organize an office. Not so it's really very diverse. And what I realized, and it's something we agreed with my leadership team, is that we need to be managers to balance accountability and care. Because imagine you cannot really meet someone on the corridor and to say, okay, look, this deadline is over fast. You are missing this and you are doing this great. So we need to find a way to do it remotely. And then, if I think going further, to make it conceptual, in Microsoft, we have this way of thinking. It's thinking in three horizons. I mean, short term, medium term, and long term. And by three horizons, in the first place, we focused on business continuity, then on business optimization, because Microsoft technology stack is really, I think, one of the most comprehensive stack to support business transformation, cost model optimization, to enable digital twins of different operations, to enable experimentation, to enable digital hospitals, tele um, tele everything if you want, or in remote everything. So we kind of concentrated on how we can drive this. And I must say that in Romania we are working, we are serving more than 20,000 customers, and we established and put in place programs which are helping different scenarios, which are industry specific or horizontal, in order to really drive resilience and optimization. And in our view, tech intensity is making the companies, as Muriel was saying, also um, more viable for the present and also for the future. It's not a condition per se, because technology is an enabler. It is not an end destination, but it's definitely a facilitator to really become relevant, to stay relevant, to become more competitive. And indeed, we also have seen companies in Romania and worldwide which adapted and actually gain market share, increase revenues. There are a couple of industries which grew 2-3 times versus last year. So there are also positive signs. But also, I think what is really important is to be able, as a manager, as a leadership team, as a government, official or government stakeholder, to really look into perspective. It is short-term need, but we also need to build in the same time what is coming next, because the world is not stopping. Whether we like it or not, even wars didn't stop our world to go on. This pandemic will not stop it either. But we need somehow to be able to cope with these engines and to different horizons view. And what I learned in my experience is that we are very good at crisis management, at dream big, but we kind of miss the piece in the middle, which is 12 months time frame in which we really need to execute and to build actually what we need to realize our ambition. So I think these are very important points. And I'm really happy that we have strong partners in the market to drive digitization. I think the state will play a critical role to enable Romanian society to become more competitive for the future. But I hope we'll have the chance to speak about this a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I keep this line of digital transformation is urgent, and I know from experience that it is urgent. Everybody's saying that it's urgent, but I will move to Mr. Mario Brandenburg, which is a member of German Bundestag, and I was impressed by your experience. You work all around the globe. I noticed from your bio, and also look at the digital environment from different perspective, company, and now a parliamentary position, regulation position, if you want. So I would ask, okay, we see this accelerating process. How the regulators are dealing with this acceleration? Are they up to speed? Let's say. Please, Mr. Bennett.
Yes, so thanks for the nice introduction. And are the regulators up to speed? That's actually a really good question. So if the techie in me would have to give the answer, I would probably say no. But within these 3 years, I learned that basically sometimes it's okay if the regulator doesn't, how would I say, interfere or interacts too early, because all the things which were mentioned, that people basically were forced to interact digitally. So, I mean, it was a push, but there's a learning curve. And we saw one nice thing in Germany when we were discussing or debating about the tracing app, the COVID app. So ordinary people were reading stuff about decentralized architecture, central data storage. So they would have never have done that in my previous life when I was trying to explain customers that my company is the best and you should buy this and that product and we are super cool. So, then people will ignore it. And if they do it really because they want it, because they really think it's important for me to understand now, that's the future. So this was really, really a big and positive thing in Germany. And therefore, I think it's not yet the time for the regulator to interact, but to closely look. So many things were mentioned. How does it work with your private lives? So people with small apartments. So does the employee basically have to take care that they have a nice chair and all these stuff which comes, like workplace regulation. So this might be things that there are no disadvantages to the people who are more forced than the other ones who are willing to do it. To me, it was not a big change. It felt like 5 years ago. So because digital companies did video meetings before. So therefore, on the regulator side, I push that we closely look, but not yet go in and regulate. Because often, and this will be my last sentence because many people haven't had the chance to say anything, if the regulator goes in and he thinks we know how a technology or how some things will evolve, that's mostly wrong. So if you think about GPS at the beginning, it was there for cruise missiles. So the regulator would have said, no, we don't want that. What does it do right now? So it helps you order food and find your grandma in a foreign city. So therefore, personally, as a free Democrat and somebody from the liberal side of it, we should closely look. That's our job, but only interact if there is need. And so far, I see the positive things on the digital transformation side are more than on the negative side. These are the stores you mentioned, basically the restaurants. They have problems, but all the digital companies, if you look at the share prices, they normally are smiling. So these are my last words. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I believe the members of the parliament learned a lot of tech words this year, to be honest. And it is not a bad thing at all. It's part of the process. I will move now to Mr. Tillemann. And I noticed that with the support of the Rockefeller Foundation, your organization is developing the next generation of technology platforms to transform the way governments deliver value to citizens, if I quote correctly. I would ask, since you have this experience with the governments, from your experience, how do the governments respond? Are they up to speed from this point of view?
Please, well, it's a good question, Radu, and thank you very much for the invitation to join.
I'd say we're seeing three different realities emerge. The first, in response to your question, is that in the overwhelming majority of the world's countries, you have institutions designed in the 19th century using technology from the 20th century to try and solve what is a very 21st century challenge. And the reality is it's not working particularly well. We certainly see that in the United States, but in many other nations, institutions are really struggling and governments are really struggling to get ahead of this challenge. The second piece of this, which is important for all of us to keep in mind, is that the countries that are responding most effectively when you survey the landscape, South Korea, Estonia, New Zealand, a number of others, all run their institutions on 21st century digital infrastructure. And they ran their countries on 21st century digital infrastructure prior to the crisis. That should be a hint for where we need to go. And specifically, the systems that they are using provide very efficient mechanisms for channeling people, information, and resources to solve problems on an agile, rapid basis. The countries and the communities that have access to that type of infrastructure are going to do fine in the course of this crisis. The countries that do not are going to struggle, and that's just a reality that we all need to recognize. The third and final piece of this, though, should be hopeful. Those of us that work with government and that try to encourage government to move in the right direction when it comes to innovation often say that all governments have the same problems, but not at the same time. This is actually a moment in history when all governments are having the same problems at the same time. And that provides an opportunity to develop the next generation of open source digital infrastructure, which is what we are working on in collaboration with a wide range of organizations around the world, to provide public institutions with systems that will enable much higher levels of accountability, efficiency, security, and do so on an open source basis that makes it easy for each community to adapt these systems to their specific needs at a very, very low price point. So that is the opportunity that we are seeing emerge in the midst of the pandemic. It's one that, notwithstanding the accelerated rate of digitization that we are all experiencing right now, will take some time to play out. But in the platforms that we are developing, both domestically and internationally, and in the work that we're doing with governments at the leading edge of digitization, this shift toward open source public digital infrastructure around things like digital identity, digital payments, data management, and mechanisms for validating and facilitating citizen interaction with government provides a massive new opportunity. And if we get it right, it will pay dividends for our societies for generations to come and be one of the few silver linings that emerges from what is otherwise a very challenging period.
Thank you so much. And I totally resonate with the idea of openness as part of the resilience of any not only IT system, but how the government operates. And I will take the opportunity and move to Mr. Sarmash, which I have to confess, I was in the first hearings and first meetings of the new authority before it was born, and I remember it was born like weeks before the pandemic. So. Apart from the normal challenges of digitalization, you had another big one in the room. How did the authority responded? Did you move all the people working from home in one night, or have a lot of work to do? Mr. President, please.
Hi, Radu, and thank you for inviting me in. Hi, everybody. Actually, I have to admit that Rad was one of the guys from, let's say, private sector that came to the government and said, okay, if you want to move or to act like a tiger, let's do an institution that looks like that. Because we didn't have a good start at the beginning, to be honest, but in the end we succeeded in having a pretty strong institution. Somehow really new, but in the first line of the war, let's say, in the last few months. actually things that didn't happen in years in Romania just start happening in public sector at the end of the March or something like that, when we just discovered for the first time in public administration in Romania that we can have remote work, that all types of public services that we just have only offline jumped directly on digital only, not just digital first. We have a lot of examples like that where we moved just digital only. So everything started changing. We found out that platforms that handled 100,000 of users, more than 500,000 of users, were developed just in 2 weeks. And after that, and maybe Razvan is going to give you an example later, with some RPA tools, we started to process thousands of documents in just another few days. So we started having an approach at the public level that never been met in the past in Romania. Of course, that there has been a bit of context, but we started and we tried to take advantage of this context as much as possible. Probably you know that in Romania, for example, all the public institutions have to accept today electronically signed documents. This was almost like impossible before, because we weren't ready for this. We are not completely ready now, to be honest, but at least we have to accept this kind of documents. There was also an increase of not only how the employees from public sector started to accept digital tools, but also the people, the Romanian who started use these tools available for a while. We started to promote, let's say, pretty aggressive. For example, Ghișeu.ro, which is a national platform for payments, and we have a huge increase in the number of users. Almost or over 100,000 people in just 100 days. So an acquisition, like let's say if you are talking like in the private sector, acquisition of 1,000 users per day, which is huge, actually. So I can say that a lot of things changed from when the pandemic started. This pandemic changed our agenda in the end, forced us to shift a bit the projects, forced us to, let's say, to provide or to make partnerships with private sector in general, and to have quick solution that can offer us a solution to the challenges we had. And let's say somehow the strategic projects were being a bit postponed, but now I think that we need to move back to look at the strategy we have for the next years. So to have the pillars of the digital transformation in Romania, so to move to a smart government. And something very important that we started to have these days is also that we started to collect data, not only documents, because a real shift to the smart government is happening when you become a data-centric, beside being a citizen-centric government, when you become a data-centric government. And now we started to collect data in the end. It's maybe for the first time when we have intensive collection of data, not just paper. Okay, paper is all around the institution, to be honest. It's still there. It's not going to disappear like tomorrow. But we have a strong shift in this way as well. And now we can start to come up with emerging technologies like AI, RPA, or even blockchain, that can put us in another light, so we can propose other type of solution for public government online.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, and I believe also your colleagues in the government learn a lot of tech terms in this period, and I remember how you moved very quickly on a lot of things, as you said, moving services not from being digital first but digital only for some period of time. Although I have a small comment on how they changed back to the old habits after the pressure was lifted, but we'll go there in the second part. But I want to finish the first round with Mr. Atim from General Manager Eastern Europe from UiPath. And I must confess, I very much appreciate your company's approach, not only to the tech part, the process automatization, but also on the effects of this and the future of jobs. And how do you see it from this perspective? The period, was it a lot of to digest? I believe in your yard. Please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here. It was, of course, a challenge for all of us this period. On one hand, and we see a lot of unfortunate examples in the aviation, tourism, and everything like what's happening there. On the other hand, the positive thing, and everyone already talked about it, it accelerated the digital transformation. And to some extent, there was no other option in many examples when companies and the public sector needed to switch from paper to digital. Because in the public sector or in the private sector, the physical presence of the employees at the office was not possible anymore. So customers and we have examples in the public sector as well, switched from paper to digital. So they transferred the support on paper on digital documents. When you have digital documents at hand and everything digitized and into the digital path, it's much easier to, address all these opportunities now through automation. In our case, UiPath has been a paperless company. We used to practice work from home. Around 40% of our employees worked from home. So we adapted to the new reality pretty easy and well. Personally, I believe, however, I believe in a mix of face-to-face interaction and partially work from home and virtually talking with customers and partners. I think it's good to keep our mindset and psychological part clean. Yeah, I think it's needed to still meet people face to face. In terms of the virtual meetings, we had also, I think, an increase in this part of connecting people with their more intimate part when kids were in the same place where we took our virtual meetings, and sometimes they pop up into the picture in the video. I think in this context of accelerated digital transformation adoption in the necessary direction that we need to take now in these circumstances, RPA, the automation of the high volumes the clients and the public sector are confronted with lately comes in as a glove, because when it comes to, for example, I think the example gives us the palpability and the trust that how it works and the proof that we need to go to the direction. It was a case, as Sabine mentioned, Mr. Sărmaș, when we needed to address together with the public institution here in Romania within our Ministry of Work a large number of requests for the financial help from the state. So it was about 100,000 requests from the citizens. The citizens, of course, need money. Our life in Romania sometimes is compared to other states is pretty low, so people need money. So we address this request from the public institution to help them deal with this large number of requests to pay the money from the state support to the citizens. And we managed to do that in 10 days. The robot processed these 100,000 requests from the citizens in 10 days. It was in due time compared to the assessed time frame with the manual processing of the requests, which would have taken around 1,000 days. Yeah, so this is the context we are contributing now to make companies and the states and the country more efficient. I'm an action man, so I believe in strategies, but first I think we need to act on some palpable directions so that we deliver fast. Normally, and in this example I gave, it's pretty fast to implement RPA and automation at scale. It was about 38 counties of 42 in Romania that used this virtual robotic assistant. So it's also a platform that can scale at any moment and very, very fast. So we implemented all this help to this authority in 2 weeks. We talk normally and in general in this part of the public sector about years, a year at least for bigger implementation. I believe, and I'm very optimistic that if the authorities and the governments would decide to move fast, RPA is a very, very fast solution. And secondly, and I will close with that. Actually, it's the locomotive for the digital transformation. You cannot automate processes that are not digitized, that are not in the digital part of the business or in the public sector. So you need first to revisit the way you do things now. So re-engineer the process so that afterwards the palpable things generated by automation would be obvious, and of course would showcase the benefits into a palpable, more palpable and measurable way. Otherwise, we theorize a lot around the digital transformation, but I think with this tool as RPA, process automation, it becomes complete. Yeah, we have an approach of 360 degrees. We come with all the expertise to just start any pilot or discuss a more strategic approach for a large number of processes and digital transformation strategy.
Thank you so much. Indeed, a lot of lesson learned and a lot of good examples on working on real projects, not just theorizing around it. So I was very happy to see that project that indeed probably take a year in normal times happening in such a short time. But I would move a little bit back to Mr. Tilleman because I just keep this quote you said that luckily, if I may add, the crisis came for all the governments in the same time. So all of them need to face the same reality and adapt to it. Some were a little bit more prepared than others. But in your opinion, what would be the top 3 actions a government need to do in order to not only to adapt to the new era, but to be more resilient in the further crisis?
That's a great question, and I would highlight 3 specific solutions that in some cases are available today, in some cases will be available soon. But when you put them together, they become transformational. And let me provide just a bit of context. At this point, we know what good looks like. So we've seen countries that are getting this right, and we need to build on the example that they provide. Most of them have created an integrated digital stack that includes a number of different modular systems that all work together. And there's an opportunity for every country in the world to, again, using the power of open source technology, harness that example in their own work. So first, governments need good systems for digital identity. It is 2020, and the fact that so many governments do not have good systems for digital identity, including the United States, is really inexcusable. We need to get to a place where that's possible and kind of baked into the way our institutions operate. The second piece of this is we need systems that can integrate with that digital identity architecture. In some instances, as we were hearing about in Romania, you have new payments architecture, which is very exciting. Payments is going to be a big piece of this. Data management is going to be a big piece of this. The civic services that we all rely on, from taxation to public finance to public benefits to civic participation and voting, will all be big pieces of this. But we need modular systems that can plug into that digital identity architecture. And the third piece, the element that is not yet fully developed, but I think has the most power in the long run to transform the way our societies operate, is giving individuals greater ownership of their own information. Right now, we exist in a largely feudal data ecosystem. All of us each day create thousands and thousands of pieces of data. We feed that data into systems that we don't own, and in most cases, we don't control in any way. And that data is used by a variety of different actors, usually in Western societies in the private sector, to shift our behavior to make money. That's fine if you're one of the feudal lords that has access to the data and information. It's a lot less beneficial if you're one of the serfs that is putting data into that system but not getting a whole lot out. And so we need to find architecture that will give individuals greater ownership and control over their information. As we do that, we will see in time the emergence of a much healthier dynamic between those that harness data and those that create it across our societies and institutions.
Thank you so much. Indeed, there's a top 3 lesson learned, and I'm happy that we have Mr. President Sărmaș here. I know there are some efforts on
Romania is doing good work on this. I should note it's been exciting to see Romania's progress.
Yeah, you see the excitement on my face as well. So I'm joking. Yeah, it's a lot of work to do indeed, but. Probably these are the main points, and we got a lot of help to be honest. And coming back to Europe's response, we noticed this recovery and resilience facility, which, according to the EU Commission and EU Parliament, put a lot of money on these topics, but with a focus on digital transformation and resilience from this point of view. So I would ask everyone just to put it in less than 1 minute, which is kind of impossible to keep the track of time, or 2 minutes, just to put what is the real chance here for a country like Romania, but for the whole Europe, why not? And I will start with Mr. Brandenburg, because it comes with the more European perspective, and also from a regulatory point of view. And I will move to Romania later on what is the chance on infrastructure, on digital transformation, and on the public services. Why not? So, Mr. Brandenburg, please.
Yep.
It would be hard.
To be honest, I hope
short. I know.
No, I keep that short. I'm German. I'm punctual. No, and the thing for Europe is that we really need to be honest that this is probably the last chance to get it done. So what Mr. Tielemans said, that's right. So, but if everybody is building that stack, so that's probably okay to learn. So identities are still national, but all these things need to be roaming ready. We saw this with all the tracing apps coming up. So I live close to the French border. How nice. I need 2 apps if I travel. I need 17 apps. So this can't be the European answer. So we have to get this thing done to interact and basically to melt that thing together, because, and I only have 1 minute left, the things which were mentioned with the data monsters we were feeding. So we are all not competitive as Germany, as Romania. That's too small. So there needs to be the European, basically, data ecosystem and a European view on that. And since I don't have enough time, I will not open up that topic, but maybe somebody will pick it up. I think it's important that the people think about what's happening, because it's okay that the state basically gives an option to give data to the state and not to companies, but then states still need to prove that they handle data very good. So it's easy to dislike Facebook, but Facebook at least is not in control of police, the law system, and all that stuff. So on that side, governments must give proof that they live up to the responsibility when people really give them all their data. 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of Germany from this point of view. Thank you. Mrs. Luca, please, what is the chance of Romania? Indeed, is it the last chance to do it right for Europe? And for Romania, I hope it's not the last chance, but I hope to be one chance. Please.
First of all, I am a big fan of diversity with inclusion, and I think this is a big lesson for all of us. We are coming with different and complementary, if you want, strengths. We put together and we can make a better country, a better Europe, and a better world. So for me, the underlying word is cooperation. It's not the time for the Miss contest. Each country is coming with something. Let's utilize what we have. What I learned from a company which is 140 billion and more than 1.5 trillion is that best practices, programmatic approach, collaboration, building on others, take from others and make it better, it's really fundamental. And then last point, just do it. Very simply, we have beautiful strategies, beautiful concepts. We need to go faster. There is an anecdote in Romania. Okay, if you come with a pill after the patient is dead, is useless. So for me, it's very important to really rally together ourselves to make it work and to walk the talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Loriu, what's on the infrastructure side looking at this opportunity? Will it be Europe more resilient?
Yeah, I think that lots of things have been said, and I will try to be, I cannot be German, but I will try to behave as much as possible into the short time. But you know, there is definitely for all of us a belief that this is the time to act and to build really more digital and more resilient society. I think that for me, I mean, these EU recovery funds, it's still a once in a lifetime opportunity to contribute and to accelerate our transformation across Europe and definitely in Romania. So, I mean, we need to continue to invest in infrastructure. I think on this front, we are quite served so far in Romania, probably better again than other countries, but we need to preserve this asset and to still accelerate on the broadband infrastructure, on the new technology shift. And maybe a word on something that has not been mentioned, which I really believe is a great opportunity for all Europe, is the Internet of Things. Because I think that this is also, you know, building on top of the infrastructure and the new technology, the next opportunity to build a sustainable and efficient new world, you know, and more eco-friendly. And here I will not be able to have the time to talk about, you know, smart cities, smart energy, smart watering, smart, waste management in the towns, smart agriculture, and so on and so forth. I mean, maybe it's going to be another time for another forum. But there are like so many solutions and critical solutions we build, and we need to invest in the new world. So to close on that, I mean, I think that I'm probably an optimistic person. So I believe that this is the right time to build the right, new world and for the new generation to come, for our kids. And I agree with what Violeta has said. I mean, let's just do it. Let's just start. Yeah, we have now the funds that will be allocated for all of us, and we need to pick the right projects, the right time to implement them all. Let's do it.
Yes, thank you so much. Indeed, that's a optimistic view, and I share it, to be honest. And I hope it's not the last chance, but it is a big chance to be used. Mr. Atim, how do you see it from UiPath experience, expertise in such a field, which is rather beneficiary of the resilience plan? Yeah, please.
Well, as mentioned, there is a lot of money on the table from the European Union. We just need to spend them wisely. We need to start, as I said, a strategy. You adopt a strategy in some time frame. It's not over the night. So I would suggest maybe creating a national program for digital transformation. I would suggest to start with, let's say, priorities, small pieces, and moving along to build a more broadened strategy for digital transformation with this support from the European Union. I believe from now on, I think there should be a very close dialogue between the state and the private segment to absorb the knowledge and the talent from the private sector to meet these nationwide goals, we need to do this, as everyone said, and I think we are all on the same page to start now or yesterday, as they say in sales. I'm a sales guy, so I would say yesterday. We have all the talent at hand. Romania has all the talent here. Improving the life through digital transformation, improving productivity will make us all more productive, more competitive, more attractive for investments, and we would catch up the places that we missed during all this time. As you know, we are kind of positioned in the last places in the DESI digital economy analysis, the last in terms of e-government. So the positive thing out of, let's say, many things that we need to do, because we are lagging behind, is that we have a lot of work and we need to start immediately with decisiveness, and assuming risk, accountability, and all these, all the rest will come naturally. I think, for me at least, I think we have proven the support and the benefits that our technology in particular would bring to all of us.
Thank you so much. Indeed, and you mentioned this national program for digital transformation. Here at Aspen Institute Romania, in our Technology and Society program, together with our partners, and I thank Microsoft, Vodafone, and UiPath for supporting it, we focused on digital-first approach on public services as a possible accelerator of digitalization in Romania. And what we did, we collaboratively generated during several webinars and a set of principles supporting a digital-first policy. So I will move to Mr. Sărmaș not only to endorse this digital-first principles that we put together, and we shared this, and we benefit from his contribution and his institution contribution as well. But indeed, probably a national program for digital transformation, not only for e-government, will help not to what we used to say at the very beginning of our meetings, digitizing the bureaucracy instead of transforming the society. What's your view? I got 5 or more minutes from the organizers, so let's use them wisely for closing. Please, Mr. Sărmaș.
Okay, I'll try to be short. What's important to know is that we are not somehow allowed to use this money from recovery and resilience facility without having a reform in that specific field. This means that is the chance to have a digital transformation plan, because that's the reform in this area of e-government. That's the good news, but it's also the, let's say, the bad news, because it's not easy to achieve a digital transformation at the national level. On the other hand, we have 2 years, and in technology in general, you don't have to put on the table that feasibility studies and so on. So we can move fast in this area. We have expertise here in Romania, but we have a challenge. And with respect to all the countries around the world and all the countries in Europe, we need to improve our capacity of spending wisely this money, because otherwise we are going to have the money in the pocket and that's all. We are not going to spend them. So how can we achieve this? By going in partnership with the private sector, because they have the expertise here, and we have to move fast. That's why we are the Authority for Digitalization of Romania started to be among the first, try to be among the first in Europe in implementing. Other countries have, like Germany, for example, digital innovation hubs, which put together the private sector and the public sector so we can move fast. This is the key in the end, because the Romanian government and all the governments in the world are not going to success in changing themselves just until tomorrow, to improving the teams, having larger teams and more experts. So we need to bring together all those who want to be involved in this process and to start move as fast as possible. And this is the biggest challenge. And decentralized this digitalization at the regional level, not only at the central level, because it's not going to work like that. But I don't think it's the last chance for us. But it's a big chance. It's a chance we never had before, and we should look at it as it's the last chance for us.
Thank you so much, and thank you all so much for being part of this panel. I wish I had 3 hours more for this conversation. I believe there are a lot of conversation going, but we can go on. But yeah, we have to stop and let other sessions to take part. Once again, it was a real pleasure for me, and I filled my notebook with a lot of good ideas from what you said. But once again, let's promise each other that we move fast and we stay in touch for this digital transformation journey of Romania. Thank you so much once again, all of you. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Likewise. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.